Hi, good morning, and I'm just getting ready and prepping for our 10 o'clock Q&A Friday session, which will be back to front, was it? A Friday live Q&A session. It's, by my watch, it's about 1 minute two. I'm just going to, I seem to have lost my phone. It is my phone, so I can check the time. So I've got 2 minutes two, but we had some problems last time I was on live, so I'm just going to see whether or not anyone can see me before I get into full flow of talking about things. So today's subject is going to be, we're going to be talking about Manager Critic. I'm sorry that it's back to front in these videos where we have the screen turned around for the live feeds. But today I'm going to look at chapter 2, which is all about step 2, which is language, on page 81 to 89. And the things we're talking about is the words that trigger us. You know those emotional buttons that you've got. So I'm just going to check in to see whether we've got, see if anybody's listening yet. Actually, it's only 2 minutes two. So if anybody is around who can, I don't know if I can check. Let me see if I invite a few people. Just so that I can see whether or not you can hear and see me. So yeah, I've just invited a couple of people just to see whether, we've got somebody up there live. So hello, Susie, thanks for joining us. So I'm assuming you can hear and see me okay. Can you give me a thumbs up or a comment? That would be great, because we're due to start live properly at 10 o'clock. So we've got 1 minute to go. But after our experience last week, excellent. So we're going to start shortly. I just thought I'd come on a few minutes early this time, and when I start to upload it later, I'll actually might need to talk to you, Susie, about how to edit the waffle off at the beginning, where I'm just waiting to find out if I can get the system working or not. So how are you, Susie? It's really weird actually trying to look up there to have eye contact on the video and read down here what your answers are. So it's a great thing actually when you start thinking about how we leave people feeling communicated and feeling heard. Is I know good eye contact's really great, but actually I've got to be able to read the messages too. So I think we're now hitting 10 o'clock, so I'm going to start officially. So today's subject is Watch Your Language. And so those of you got the book already, Manager Critic, from Overwhelm to Clarity in 7 Steps, I'm going to be referring to step 2, language, which is pages, sun and shining fab, Susie, pages 81 to 89. And the key headers that are under this chapter are words, triggers, universal qualifiers, and metaphors. So I really wanted to think about today what words are really pushing your buttons, and you may not be consciously aware. You might be blaming the person. You might be going, that person when they do this, and but start to think about the patterns. It's really important to notice patterns. So it might be a certain word that's actually triggering a behavior. So for example, for me, what I've noticed is a family conversation that took place over the Christmas period. And then a conversation on Facebook yesterday where someone has told me in my family, you have to do this. And they've given X, Y, and Z suggestion, advice, or whatever it might be. But I'm having the same response to all of them. And I'm feeling kind of like agitated inside and really annoyed and quite angry. And I call that drama. So when I have a trigger or a button or an emotional reaction to something, I go, okay, so what's the common pattern? And what it is, it's the word you have to. And it's the have to. And because I truly don't believe that I have to do anything, there are options, there are choices out there, there are things that I can consider. When people tell me I have to do it, I can have my sort of rebellious teenager comes out. It's like, no, I don't have to. But what I've learned to do when I manage my critic is go, okay, so I'm having a reaction to that word have to. If I take that word out of it and I listen to the advice that they're giving me, you know, that I have to do X, Y, and Z, and I just listen to the advice and I get curious about that, I can then take on board their feedback, take on board their suggestion or their criticism, whichever it might be, and decide for myself whether that works for me or not. And okay, so Susie just mentioned that she's, since reading the book, that she's stopped using the words should and need. And what difference has that made, Susie? If you can share that below, that'd be fantastic. But it's really important that you, it might be words other people are saying, or it might be words that you're saying and you're not getting the response that you expect. And if you can move on to the chapter under intention, where you can find a bit more about the drama triangle, because the reality is if you get that agitation or that frustration inside, then what happens is when you do communicate with that person, you're probably going to communicate from a place of fear or frustration or anger, and it really doesn't work. We have to be able to communicate from a place of love with a really good intention, that you want them and the relationship to be okay, but you can also have your say. But if you haven't managed your own turmoil inside first, i.e. managed your critic, it can all go a bit pear-shaped. So the first thing today then is to think about the words and just start noticing patterns. And please come back to the video, please use the group to share any words this week that you start to notice push your buttons, and get curious about it. And then as a group, we can start to share when someone says to you, you have to do something. What is it you hear and see? What's your interpretation of that? How does that make you feel? So that I can then learn from you what your experiences are. You can learn from me. And actually we can update our model of what that means and what works for us and what doesn't work for us. The other thing is universal qualifiers. I talk about words like everyone must, or always, or you never. So if you ever find that you're you might find that when someone says to you, you're always late, or you never turn up on time, or you're never organised. Just by using that never and always, it kind of gives nobody, it doesn't even give yourself any room for movement. It doesn't give you any room for progress, and the likelihood is it's probably not true. So if you hear yourself saying, oh, you're always lazy, or you're always disorganised, or you're always lacking focus, or you never finish anything, just check in with yourself and ask yourself what kind of never and what kind of always. And nearly always when I'm facilitating somebody, if they're using words like I never do this or they never do that, I will ask them what kind of never. I'm not going to assume, because it might be that they never ever do it. But I would say 99.9% of the time when asked that question, they realise, well, actually sometimes they do it. And then if you can focus on when you do it, whether it's you or them, what you do is you start to give your critic an awareness that it's not as bleak as like it never happens or it always happens. So if you like, we're always poor, I never get the clients. All of that self-talk means that you are going to spend more energy in your head than actually outside of it taking action. So Susie, you put, I feel I have options. I usually still do the action, but don't feel forced into it. Okay. And I think that's a really good point, because I know for me, there were some things in my language when I picked it up and I was like, oh, you know, I have to do this or I have to do that. And actually, that's really funny, because I've only just noticed as I said it then, that was my thing that I would say to myself, I have to do this. You know, as a mother, I have to do this. As a wife, I have to do that. But actually, when I checked in, do I have to? It really was, I want to. So actually just talking that through now with you guys on the video, the 3 people that I'm thinking of, I'm just thinking, how true is it that the thing that they were telling me to do or suggesting I have to do, is it something I want to do? So one of it was giving up sugar. And I do want to give up sugar. But it's a lack of confidence around what extent does giving up sugar mean? Because I know there's sugar in tomato sauce. I know there's hidden sugars in lots of things. So there's some things I can give up with sugar straight away that I absolutely know, cake, chocolate, the obvious stuff. But there's sugar in pasta and bread, and they're things that I wouldn't have before known sugar was in. So I think actually I want to give it up, but I don't actually understand all the things I've got sugar in. And I don't know yet whether I'm prepared or willing to give up all of them. So that's a good learning for me. I hope that gives you some insights. I don't know if that helps you, Susie, as you're on live, is that when someone else triggers something for you, get curious about it, because often they're a reflection that's something for you to learn about. So past learning, I'd learned that I would say, I have to do this as a mother. And when I checked in, like, I know I have to do my kids' laundry, I have to do this. Either I would check in and go, what kind I have to, and I discover actually I don't have to do it, I choose to do it, I want to do it. So like I do all the cooking nearly in our house, despite the fact that Liam's a fantastic cook. He's now busy working, and so I prepare the meals nearly every night. And I could go around going, I have to do it, but actually I want to do it. I want to serve my family in this way. I want to put healthy food on the table. I want to provide a really good meal that's going to help my family to be, you know, sustain the energy and to do a good job. So I want you to think about that, you know, think about your words, think about universal qualifiers, and the question you could just ask yourself, the clean language questions that I talk about in the book, is what kind of is that, and is there anything else about that? So the other part, so we've still got plenty of time, is metaphors. Now, one of the things with trying to understand ourselves and manage our critic is that our language, the words that we use, all of us think we're using the same words and we all mean the same thing. Now, Susie and I work in collaboration, and often when we're communicating, I might say, I don't know, I need that by the end of the week. Now, the end of the week for me would be, it needs to be there by Friday at 5 o'clock. But for Susie, end of the week might be, we haven't had this specific discussion, it might be 9 o'clock on Friday. And when we start looking at the language we're using to describe certain things, nearly all of us use language that's very, very different, but we're using the same words, but with a different meaning. So again, it's worth asking one question. So when you say end of the week, what does that actually mean to you? You know, which day of the week, what time in that day does that mean? So yours is actually Sunday. Okay, so mine's Friday by 5 o'clock, because I think I'm having a business conversation with you and I'm thinking still in my corporate days probably of Monday to Friday working, and I'm thinking end of the week is going to be Friday. So if Sunday, I say to her, can you get that back to me by the end of the week? And she says yes, then she'll get it back to me on Sunday, but what I mean is Friday, and that's when the conflict happens, that's when the frustration happens. It doesn't happen so much for me now because I can manage my critic and I can go, oh, right, okay, I didn't really clarify. I didn't have clarity of what it is I meant by what I was saying. And then we can work it out together. So all of your words, if you're not getting heard and understood, if you're not getting the response that you want from your communication, the first thing is to have clarity about what you mean by it, and then ask questions and get curious about what other people mean by it and start to iron out your differences. Now, there are some things that are really, really difficult to describe, like how you feel. And the reason why clean language was transformational for me was because sometimes you've got that stuff going on and you just don't have the words. You don't have the language to describe it. And while some people say they don't have a metaphorical representation of it, many of us do. And for those of you that can do this, it's worth allowing yourself to do it. You'll probably feel a bit daft. But if I said, let's say, when someone says to me, you have to do something, if I describe the question we ask, it's a have to, that have to is like what? Well, that have to, for me, feels like a massive slap in my face. So that's a metaphor, it's what it's like. It's not that I didn't actually get a slap in the face. It's like I've spoken about what I'm doing and someone's gone, but you have to do this. And that's what it feels like when someone says you have to do something. And it's the tone and it's the force. And even when it's written, I've realised that's how I hear it sometimes. So if someone tells me I have to do something, it feels like, I haven't really thought about it in too much detail, so I'll just do it now while we're on the live. It's like, it's been like a slap in the face. There's a brick wall and all I want to do is push it away because I can't see anything else now. It's like I can't even see the thing that they're telling me to do. They have to create a wall. So the power of metaphor is that if you can start to process your thoughts through metaphor understanding, then you can start to unlock the stuff that's really holding you back. And for me, in that particular example, what I would do is, so when a wall is like that, what would I like to have happen? And I can start to develop a strategy that says, well, I'd like the wall to be a really sort of gentle, quiet warning sign saying, here's another option. Here is something that works for somebody else. And you have a choice whether you want to look at it. And so actually I want to be able to go, and I want it just to be there. And I can go, oh. So I have to have a degree to be successful in life was one of the suggestions. You know, to have all my options open, I have to have a degree. Another one is to lose weight, you have to give up sugar. So these are some have-tos I've had to this week, or this last couple of weeks. And at first, I totally disagree with them. And I think they're wrong. But it's not because they are wrong. It's because I've just had this emotional reaction to it. So even just doing this little bit of activity with you now, so yours have to is like a heavy sack on your back that I have to carry. Okay, so answering that question for yourself then, Susie, when it's like a heavy sack on your back that you have to carry, what would you like to have happen? And I'll give you a minute with that thought. And anybody else that comes on live, and if it's after the recording, put your thoughts in the comments below, and I come on for half an hour 2 or 3 times a day, and I'll be happy to answer any questions and support you with a few questions. But you can start to ask questions of each other, and I want this to be a community. Step by Step Listening is a community already of people who are committed to non-judgmental listening, not making assumptions, not telling other people what they have to think or what they have to do, but simply sharing what's worked for them and giving it out as a gift for people to try things. The items in the sack to turn to fluffy cotton wool. So a question I might ask you, and when a heavy sack's on your back that you have to carry, and what you'd like to have happen is for the items in the sack to turn to fluffy cotton wool and for it to be light and snuggly, what happens just before fluffy cotton wool? So these are some of the questions that when you work with myself, the Strength and Solution Detective, and other people who are trained in clean language facilitation, but also people who listen for a living, professional coaches, counsellors, therapists, people who've trained to ask different questions, they will help you see and hear the same information from a different perspective. And people often, one of my biggest challenges, I think, that my missions, not I think, I actually know, my mission is to change the way the world listens. But it's also about changing the way people perceive listening skills. I get frustrated actually by the thing that people think that listening skills is a soft skill. Actually, it's quite a tough skill, and it takes a lot of resilience. It takes a lot of persistence. And I'm now, having done this 8 years of training in listening, I'm now applying that to my physical world with my well-being and my eating and my training. And yet those who follow me will see that happening. But actually, it took a lot of persistence. It took a lot of having a go and it not working. It took a lot of trying to ask questions and not getting the response I wanted, and then noticing a pattern about the responses. So when you train to listen to people, you put a lot of time into tracking patterns. You're learning how to hold your feelings back for other people so they've got space to be heard. And it's a magical gift to be able to share with people. So if you are someone right now that supports lots of people and you want to develop your listening skills, I'd love to talk to you. Join the group. If you're somebody who really, it's not so much about developing it, you just need someone to talk to, because I believe that if you're going to be a great listener, you have to be able to empty your head of your own stuff in order to be clear to receive other people's information. And when you're in overwhelm, we're not particularly good listeners. So again, I'm here to support you so that you can continue to do the work that you want to do and spread the word out there and share your skills with other people. So, Susie, you've said, I get a warning sign of a sharp pang in my back and I know I need to change what I'm carrying. Oh, I've noticed I said need, laugh out loud, meant I choose to change what I'm carrying. And so I'd be curious actually, what happens in between need and choose? So just have a think about that. I'm just aware of time because I meant to stay on till 15 and it's now 10:15. So that's section, the step 2, that's all about language, your words, your vocabulary, universal qualifiers and metaphors. I hope that's been useful to you today. Please continue to comment below. If you watch this video after it's been live or you see it on my YouTube channel, then please come and join me in Manage Your Critic on Facebook, where I engage, whenever during the week, particularly the first 7 days of the month, we have the clarity process, the CLARITY, on the first day of the month right through. So I bring in little bits of snippets of the book alive for you. But I'm here to support you, to support more people. So don't be in overwhelm. If you need clarity, get in touch. If you just need that little space, that confidential space where you can talk to people who are on the same journey as you that really want to be fantastic listeners, then please do come and join the group. And more importantly, don't just like the video, well, that's great. Please subscribe to YouTube if you're there. The most important thing you can do for me right now, and the thing that would help me know that what I'm doing is making a difference, is share it and share what you got out of it. Either put comments or share, because that's going to help us to get more people supported in the world. Thanks for joining me today. And Susie, you're going to have a think about that, but you and I have our call this afternoon, so I shall be asking you more about your rucksack. Can't wait to find out about that. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. It's been great joining you. Next week, I am with clients on Friday, so instead of doing a live Q&A, I'll be doing a recorded video, and that will be going up again at 10 o'clock for you. So see you next week, but please put your questions in the group between now and then, and I'll make sure the video is appropriate to what you've got questions about. Speak to you soon.